Good morning and welcome to Kyoto Group first half year presentation. If you have any questions today during or after the presentation, you can send them to camilla@kyoto.group and then we'll address them at the Q&A session following the presentation today. My name is Camilla Nilsson. I'm the CFO of Kyoto, and with me today I have Christopher Kjellner, who is the CEO and joining us in April this year and bringing 20 years of experience from the energy sector. And with that, I'm handing over to you, Christopher.
Thank you very much, Camilla. Going through the company key events. We are installing the first full-scale thermal battery, which is ordered for commercial installation as a demonstration unit. We have ongoing activities to broaden the project pipeline with leads in the Nordic region. We have secured a new board with extensive industry and renewable energy competence. Also, we have appointed a new CEO, CFO, and an interim CTO. We are scaling the organization with 14 additional FTEs to execute on the long-term growth strategy. Going through the financials, we have raised approximately 180 million Norwegian kroner in new equity, and we have listed the share on the Euronext Growth, and the end of period cash position is about 160 million Norwegian kroner. We are now taking the company from startup to scale up. We have in 2020 installed the first trial pilot, and this year we are installing the first commercial demonstration unit and commissioning it first quarter 2022. We're scaling up the company by organic and structural growth going forward. By 2030, 50% of the energy mix will be renewable energy. This cannot be done unless we stabilize the fluctuating solar energy and wind energy from producing energy when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining to also having energy available during night or when the wind is not blowing. This is what Kyoto is doing. We are harvesting the energy when it is in excess and making it available when the demand for the energy is there. Looking at the industry, 74% of all the energy is actually from heat and not electricity. And the energy mix in that heat production is 91% from carbon emitting sources. This is what Kyoto wants to do something about. The energy mix to have a higher degree of renewable sources. The Kyoto heat cube could be installed either behind the meter, utilizing the energy directly from solar panels or wind turbines. Or it could be part of the energy structure in front of the meter. We are using energy and we are supplying energy. We believe that UN Sustainability Goals 7 and 9 are important, and we fulfill and work to fulfill those goals through Kyoto's business plan. The way the heat cube works is by either using electricity from the grid, which could be off-peak capacity, or it could be off-grid capacity. Or we can take the heat directly. It could be from industrial excess heat, waste and bioheat, or solar heat. And we take that energy, we store it, and then we can supply it again either behind the meter or directly in the grid to industrial customers who need the heat energy directly, or we can turn it back into electricity again and then supply the electricity.
As we announced in June this year, we have now ordered the first thermal battery to be installed as a commercial pilot to decarbonize industrial heat. This has been developed in close collaboration with some of the world's leading experts in molten salt systems. It is under production and preparation for installation and is planned to be commissioned and operational early next year. This first installation will operate under a commercial contract where we sell heat to the client. And what we see on this slide is an illustration of the heat cube at the site of the client. The plan is to operate two commercial models. Heat as a service, or what we have referred to earlier as battery as a service, where we build, own and operate the batteries at site. By building such a portfolio of batteries, we believe that we also will be able to attract attractive project financing when we have long-term, stable revenue streams. But we also see that some clients want to own and control the battery fully themselves, and in such cases we will of course also sell the battery as a product.
The rollout plan consists of one 10 megawatt-hour project and another 20 megawatt-hour 2021, and then several 20 megawatt-hour projects in 2022 and going forward. To succeed with this rollout plan, we need to have a commercial and a project execution focus. The time from when we are introduced to a lead until it has been developed to a commercial contract and has been delivered and commissioned can be up to 2 years. Because of this, it's critical that we focus on the right opportunities right away. We are hence developing and strengthening the competence in the commercial part of the company, but also the executional part of the company. To deliver on this rollout plan, we are recruiting 14 full-time employees, which is almost doubling the employees in the company this year. We are strengthening the commercial side of the company, but also the technical side of the company. And then Camilla, would you take us through the financials?
Thank you, Christopher. So the key financials in the first half of this year is that we have raised 184 million NOK, and we have used 15 million of that for operating activities, and we have invested additional 5 million in technology development. We have a cash position at the end of 59 million NOK, and we expect that will take us into mid-2022. So to summarize, what you have heard today is that we are fully focused on delivering the first Heatcube installation in Denmark this year, expected to be in operation early next year. We are progressing further leads in the Nordic region and are working to expand the pipeline. And we are currently scaling the organization to execute on the growth strategy. With that, after a short break to allow Christopher to join us.
Starting the Q&A, we have received a question from Kjell Galstad. And the question is, and I'm reading it, so we are getting the question, all the questions up on the screen in front of us. and I'm just reading it up. So Kjell, he's asking lithium-ion batteries for electrical vehicles versus batteries for industrial applications, and the expected decrease in capex levels of EV batteries, industrial batteries, compared to the competitiveness of the Heatcube. So in general, I think the market expects the total capex level of lithium-ion batteries to be almost cut in half over the next decade. So going towards 2030, I think the price level will go, quite significantly down. And we've seen some numbers, and also Kjell is mentioning here potentially that the capex could be, let's say, in the $60 to $50 per kilowatt hour range. And if that is the case, I would say that the target capex of the Heatcube, when we are fully operational in a commercial setting with serial production, still the Heatcube capex would be approximately around 20% below those levels. So I think there's a lot of room for reduction in lithium-ion battery capex, and still the Heatcube will be highly competitive. Moving to the next question. Maybe Camilla, do you want to take a look at that?
Yes, so that's a question from Joachim, and he asks on our plans or progress in the planned commercial demo with Norsk Hydro and the progress in general, including guiding on future revenues. He would also like us to comment on how confident we are on the growth of the company going forward, taking into account the SaltX efforts the 20 last years. So our plan and project with Hydro is progressing. We are in close and continued dialogue on the industrial development together with Hydro. And talking about SaltX, we are of course following SaltX and all our competitors and identifying the commercial risks and the technology risks for the company going forward. We are teaming up with the best partners in the world on the technical side and on the commercial side to manage the risks going forward.
And to comment on the commercial demonstration unit with Hydro, we have a close and a good dialogue with Hydro, and I think the discussion with them is moving forward in a good and constructive way. I think the right way of addressing that question is to say that we are moving according to plan. I see the next question now comes from Magnus Solheim from Fearnley Securities. And the first question from Magnus is, do you still see the same revenue, EBITDA potential in the markets that it says that you are growing? Is electricity prices still fluctuating enough through a 24-hour period? And I think that the answer to that question is yes. And I think also it's clear that going forward, the energy market is going through a technology transition. We're moving away from controllable generating technology to energy production, which is producing when the wind is blowing or when the sun is shining. And when that is happening, we will have more of the really, really high prices, and at the same time also we will have more of the really, really low prices. So the fluctuations in the prices will actually increase as we go through this technology transition. Moving to the next question from Magnus. can you give some details into the regulatory regime where your target growth is? Yes, I can take that one, Camilla. So we are starting in Denmark, and we see that there is a great push for electrification, and it's going on in the district heating network segment, but it's also happening in the industrial setting. So we see a push for supporting electrification, and we also see a push to reduce the current tariffs on electrification of these sectors. So if we combine that, I would say with your first question, Magnus, that we see the prices fluctuating more and more. I mean, I'm not saying that the expected price level is necessarily changing upwards or downwards. I'm just saying that the amplitudes, the actual top and down expectations increase. And we combine that with this push for electrification. I think Kyoto's business model has a very strong growth potential. Next question. Can you comment on the 5 million NOK in capex you committed during the quarter on technology? Maybe Camilla, do you want to comment on that?
I'll do that. So during the first half, we invested around 5 million in technology development. And as we announced in June, we are working very close with some of the world-leading experts in molten salt systems. We have mentioned ARPAO, CYD, and Aalborg CSP. Together with them, we are designing now the heat cube. And the circulation system, the pump system, and the investment is into that. It's the development of the first version of the heat cube that will be installed in the second half this year.
So let's move on. So the next, can you give some detail into cash consumption going forward as you scale up the business? Maybe Camilla?
Yes, I'll do that. So we have used, as you see, around 21 million in the first half. We can expect this to increase somewhat in the second half as we are now scaling up the organization with additional 14 people. So the monthly run rate will increase somewhat in the second half. And of course, the bigger cash burn is when the projects is starting to scale, and which we are also seeing will start happening now. So we expect a cash position around 100 million by the end of the year. And we expect that the current cash position will take us somewhere into mid of 2022. The decisive factor for the cash is, of course, the projects, when the projects start to scale.
Moving to the next question. Do you have a target of installed capacity for 2022? So we have a target to secure commercially 2 projects this year and deliver those 2 projects next year, so 2022. During 2022, we need to commercially sign additional 8 projects to be able to deliver on the rollout plan. So installed capacity in 2022 is depending on when during 2022 we're securing those projects. So we have not set an actual installed capacity for 2022, but we have put in an aspiration at the end of 2023. And we will achieve, we believe, that target by organic and also structural growth. Do you want to take the next and read out, Camilla?
You say that it takes at least 12 to 24 months from you start commercial engagement to having an agreement and installation. Can you walk us through that process? Also, how long does it take from agreement to installation has been completed?
Yes, thank you. So we see that of course, the lead time of the different opportunities varies from segment to segment. If we look at the district heating network segment, some of the district heating power plants, they issue RFQs and expect those RFQs to be committed to, let's say, within 12 months from issuing the RFQ. For us, that means that we will receive the RFQ, we will have a dialogue with the power producer, an iteration of several rounds, and eventually we are winning or losing the bidding process. But it could also be that we are contacting the utility directly, so that we are starting the process. And if we're doing that, the progress can vary much more. For instance, are we following an already approved procedure or not? So if we are targeting something ourselves, it's a little bit more unpredictable to say how long time the real process of securing or developing a lead until a commercial agreement takes. After that, we see that the lead time on our most critical subsystems and items is about 6 months. So from commercial commitment until commissioning of the unit, it's about 6 months.
We have a question from Tim Nylund. He says, I was looking into your competitors and I noticed your molten salt competitor SaltX is struggling to commercialize their technology for 20 years now. Have you identified their errors and do you have a plan to avoid them? I would rather say that SaltX was really early out on storing energy in salt, and they have changed their commercial strategy a couple of times over those decades, and storing energy in molten salt is of a different dimension today with the need to store energy. So I would rather say that SaltX was really early out and are now following the development of what is happening. But yes, we are following SaltX and all our competitors and peers, because we have a lot in common and also to learn from each other. And we are following them and all others and learn from everyone we can learn from.
So the next questions come from Magnus Solheim in Fearnley. Magnus is raising 2 questions. The first is, in the report you say that you are funded through mid-22. Can you comment on the strategy beyond 2022? I would say that we are working on updating the 5-year plan for the companies. We're in the middle of that process now. So I think we can leave that, Magnus. We can leave that question for now, and then we are more than happy to return to that question later on. Your next question, Magnus, how many projects do you need to announce in 2021-22 in order to reach the 3,000 megawatt hour aspiration target by 2023? So we are working to increase the total capacity of the Heatcube. Today we see that the capacity is about 20 megawatt hours per battery solution. We're working to increase that from 20 to 30. So to be able to reach the 3,000 megawatt hour target, we believe that we need to secure about 10 projects with about 10 of these batteries in each of those projects. So we have 2 projects this year to be secured commercially. So that means that we need to secure additional 8 projects going forward.
With that, it seems like we have reached the end of the Q&A. We thank you so much for listening in and for the good and interesting questions. If you have any further questions, do not hesitate to contact us through the channels we are available at. Thank you so much for today.